Now, as she proved on Gogglebox, the Reverend Kate Botley is a dab hand at reviewing stuff on TV. So there was no one better to kick off our series digging into the BBC archives to see how attitudes have changed.
And as it's Father's Day, she's watching a remarkable documentary looking at how traditional family roles were being reversed nearly 50 years ago. The question is, who's wearing the trousers today?
In 1973, the concept of the working mum and the stay-at-home dad was so extraordinary that the BBC series Man Alive made a documentary about it called My Wife Wears the Trousers.
40% of all married women in this country go out to work, and no one raises an eyebrow. 1 in every 5 of these working wives even earns more than her husband.
Of course, a lot has changed since then, but I want to see what some modern families think of our 1973 trailblazers. So I've invited some to a special screening here in Sheffield, and the popcorn is on us.
Hello, how lovely to see you.
The film features 2 families. The Turners.
For a year, Keith coped with running the Turners' big home. His wife, 39-year-old Jean Turner, works as a school's dentist.
And the Slades.
Roger Slade finds it tiring doing the housework, the cooking, and looking after 17-month-old Naomi.
Besides being a bit sniffy about the dad's housework, the film explored why they made the then controversial decision to stay home with the kids.
The part that was laid out for me by convention was a part which would separate me from this child. So there was a problem. If I wanted to see my child, we had to do something about it.
Keith gave up his job to experiment with a different lifestyle.
I set out not with the intention of being a housewife.
He calls himself a housewife.
I now see, the homemaker's role as stressful, demanding, immensely rewarding.
He sounds exhausted, the poor man.
And now I really do enjoy my children enormously.
Some people might think that you've opted out of your responsibilities as a husband.
The interviewer is really pushing him on, isn't this a bit weird, isn't this a bit odd? And he's not having it at all.
It seems to me a man has a responsibility to have a relationship with the child. And how many men do?
So ahead of its time.
If a man can't cope with caring for his own child, then he isn't a man.
Oh, he's adorable. I love him.
This turned out to be not quite so much of a problem as people would anticipate, because I am the mother, and you cannot deny me that.
We owe those women something. As working woman, I owe those women something. These families were not just doing an experiment and pushing against the conventions of the time, but actually pushing against the whole system which was designed to work against them.
So, what do my guests think?
So they were trailblazers, really, weren't they? I mean, they were really trendsetters.
They were the feminists of their time, and those men, just the commitment that they had and the fact that it wasn't going to threaten their masculinity, that they could be a father, I thought was just tremendous.
Interesting listening to how different it was not too long ago either. I generally view my parents as just my parents, not really like mum role, dad role.
Do you think your dad would have made a Keith and Roger?
He would have said, stop being a big girl's blouse and be a man and get off to work. He is one of the few people in my family that says men work, women stay at home.
Traditional attitudes might have started changing in 1973, but how far have we really come since then? To help me find out, I asked sociologist and family expert Dr. Helen Norman.
So if we look at the British Social Attitudes Survey, which is a survey of the population of Great Britain, if we look at 1987, around half of the population believed that a man's job was to earn money and a woman's job was to stay at home. If we fast forward to 2017, that proportion has dropped to just 8%. So attitudes are moving on, but there's still kind of that underlying expectation that fathers will still provide for their family.
The big question for me is what happened next. Did the family's approach to parenting make any sort of difference to their children? Surely the best person to tell me that is one of them.
Well, Naomi, the first thing I've got to say to you is, my, haven't you grown?
was it normal amongst your peer group? Were your friends the same, or did they have a much more traditional kind of family upbringing?
Well, I always felt rather lucky, actually, because I always felt I had a much closer relationship with my father than my contemporaries did, because their fathers went out to work, they might have come in late, and they just seemed more distant, more remote.
God bless your parents, the trailblazers, is what I say.
Didn't they do well?
Didn't they? You turned out great. The Turners and the Slades were pioneering back in the 1970s, and while they might have been viewed as a bit unusual or a bit of an oddity, it's because of people like them who paved the way for today that we can embrace families in all shapes and sizes, and anyone can wear the trousers.
And that Man Alive programme was made the year before I was born.
1942?